Good afternoon. Welcome to Be the Solution. Hi, this is Maria Quattrone, and welcome my guest, Christine Beckwith. She is the CEO of 2020 Vision for Success Coaching. She's a 3 times best-selling author. I'd love to hear about your books, Christine. And she's a sought-after public speaker and writer, and former executive in the mortgage industry for over 20 years. She also has a Mortgage X podcast with her co-host, Jason Frazier. And I'm so excited to talk with you today, Christine. How are you?
Good. And I'm so excited. Sorry for the downward eye contact. I literally just shared that with all my groups and on my Facebook as well, so we could get as many of the 2020 and Women with Vision peeps on. I'm great. Holding up, taking it day by day and just keeping my head down and doing what I do, you know?
How is everybody good in your family, your son? And
yeah, everyone's good. You know, we kind of started out from a place where I haven't seen my folks. I haven't seen either of my siblings. We live about an hour apart, and we see each other frequently. But in this environment, I am about to be tested. I came back. I'm breaking this story here on your podcast because I came back on March 5th from 14 days of travel convention and joined with a vacation and a president's club from my boyfriend. And long story short, I was very sick. I worked, but I was very, very sick with really weird symptoms. And so if I was a betting person, I would bet that I probably had this. And it really lingered like for a full month. And so I didn't DRB around any of my family. And so I'm about to be tested really more so that I can get the clear to go see my mom and dad. I really want to be able to see them and even at a distance without hugging and just, know that I have the antibody. So I'm getting tested in 2 ways. I'm actually going to get the test that's the actual tells you whether you're still contagious, and then the antibody test done. So that's Thursday afternoon. I won't know till the beginning of next week, but
Wow.
So all is good. We everybody's safe. Everybody's, my whole family's still working. There's a few of us, a few people that my nephew, for instance, was put on furlough, but he's still receiving pay. So, for my family, we're doing really great.
how do you physically feel? I mean, are you feeling better?
I have to tell you that I just turned a corner. Like whatever it was that I had was so strong. I worked every day because my schedule doesn't stop, and I'm scheduled months in advance with, hundreds and hundreds of people and companies that are working with us. There's no end in sight. And so, the beat kind of had to go on, but I had a couple of afternoons early on when I was really what I believe in the throes of the really, beginning of it, where I had to lay down because I really felt the only thing I can explain it as, if you've ever had a baby and you've been pregnant, you feel like you get shot with a tranquilizer and it's like you got this chemical that makes you feel exhausted and tired. That's how I felt. And so every day I worked, I did the work, but I literally, it was like carrying around a 100-pound weight with myself. So nonetheless, feeling a lot better now. And I hope that this is me turning the corner. But, again, very grateful that I'm healthy enough to, whatever I had, I was able to handle. And, I try not to victimize myself in any way, shape, or form. I've always been like a hard worker. I've always, looked at situations like that and accepted them and not, got stuck in the mud over the mindset of it all. I was more worried, I'll be honest, in hindsight, with announcing that I thought I had it. And so I chose not to say anything because if you go back to my Facebook on like May 3rd or 4th, I created a collage of all the selfies from 3 conventions. Like I literally might be to blame for the entire industry getting it. Like that's how I felt at that point. So anyways.
Well, I'm glad that you're feeling better, and it's will be good to know.
Yeah.
Where are your parents?
Sure. They are in central New Hampshire, where I grew up, still back in the hometown. beautiful area at the foothills of the White Mountains in this majestic lake, Lake Winnipesaukee. And so just in a beautiful area of the country. But this is very different for them. I mean, they're 70, years old, and they've never seen anything in their lifetime like this. So it's, they like their little time to go out at the end of each day and have a little dinner at the diner or little places here or there. And so, their worlds, it's very different for them. They FaceTime. They don't have iPhones. So my younger sister who lives up there has gone to their house, and twice a week, Sundays and Wednesdays, I've been seeing them on iPhone, and they're the cutest things ever, peering into this iPhone back at me like, hi, like they think it's the neatest thing that they can see me, and I can see them. And so that's been fun, but
we'll see,
and helpful.
So they were thrown into the technology. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah. In this case, I think they're really appreciating that eye-to-eye contact that they've got. So that's good,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So have the bans been lifted in New Hampshire?
So
I know it varies. Every state is so different.
Yeah, Governor Sununu came out on Friday and said that we will stay shelter at home until May 31st. And he said that we will begin to open up some businesses on May 11th and 18th. So we're doing the slow rollout like everybody else. So we're getting there. Like, I feel like we can see the end in sight. There's still, we're still peaking, like the amount of deaths per day, even though New Hampshire has not been hit hard, has been higher in the last week or two than it's been the whole time. So, but bridging the amount of new cases coming in, I think the testing's become more available. So there's probably more positives. But that's just because people are realizing that getting tested is really a means to an end, because if you know that you've got the antibody. And I will say, my co-author of Breaking the Cycle, Wendy Wright, who's my childhood friend, who's a doctor, nurse practitioner, she is saying that she's had, people that tested positive and 4 or 5 weeks later are still showing contagious. So, this thing's an odd duck for sure in how it operates. And it really explains why it's so pandemic. Because it has the ability, usually the odds are if you run into somebody and you have the flu during the 24 hours you're contagious, well, they get infected. But now you got to worry about infecting people for weeks on end. And so I do think there's I don't want to get into the political weeds, but I think there's a real personal responsibility we all have to have about that part,
Yeah. It's in our state, I mean, we're still shelter in place till the 8th of May. That's what they said. But real estate here, we're the only state, Christine, in Pennsylvania, that real estate is non-essential.
I know. I heard that.
Oh, in all of North America.
And that's really painful to hear, because I have more real estate friends, hello everybody, in the Pennsylvania market than anywhere. Jersey and Pennsylvania, biggest real estate partnerships that, because of, having worked for Annie Mac for the last 12 years and having their footprint be there right outside of Philly.
Yeah, they're with Mount Laurel, right? Mount Laurel, I think. Mount
Laurel is their corporate office. And yeah, there was a lot of branches also for Annie Mac in that area as well. So, I really feel for everybody, that's in that scenario. I will say that we are figuring out that there's a lot of there's a long reach with virtual ability. I mean, there's a lot that still can be done. I mean, I see realtors using virtual tours. I see realtors and mortgage people using e-signing. I even see e-recording going on. I mean, it probably has hurried up and pushed the envelope in a lot of ways towards a technology that many resisted. But I think this is a big lesson in our functionality. And so I'm really happy to see that our industry is still able to move the needle forward for a lot of homeowners and people that are refinancing.
I think it's some of the things that are going to come out of this are really going to be great for the industry.
Absolutely.
We're more efficient.
Yeah.
We're able to solve our clients' problems faster.
Yep.
People, people are resilient,
Absolutely.
and everybody's working together to get it done. So I think, that's really important. I mean, your business, 2020 Vision Success Coaching, is virtual anyway, right?
Yes, we were so fortunate that we were able to have so few hiccups during this thing. We just had started out from a place, and really credit to Culture Matters for this, because they're the ones, when we started to do our vetting of coaching software, that had a relationship with Brad Lee, and I had a marketing officer that had brought me a spreadsheet with 13 different softwares that you could put curriculum on, and we were looking at all of them. And then Jay Duran said, you should check out Brad Lee's Lightspeed VT, and I was like, okay, let's check it out. So we threw it on the pile, and it was so funny because my marketing person came back and said, this is like the Lamborghini of softwares, like, it's really one of the best. And that's the route we went. We literally said, okay, let's do that. And I have never looked back since. And I'm so grateful I made this decision. Everything happens for a reason. But our systems are completely virtual. We coach virtually. We coach, both by phone and Zoom. And we have 26 people that work for us that are all over for the country. They all report in virtually. So yeah, knock on wood for once. That never happens, by the way. When I look back over my last 30 years, I never seem to be in the right spot when the boat hits the wave. I always am getting popped out of the boat, in 2006, when we hit the wave back there, we were one of the first companies that had to shut down. And I was, a leader at that time, over 1,200 employees. And that was painful to shut the company down after, such a long run. But yeah, this time I'm holding up. Things are holding up. We were in the right spot. And so I feel really good about it.
So those 26 people, are they all coaches with you?
No. So we have a whole array of support behind the scenes. So staff members wise, we have about 9 managers. And so we full on, we have a high IT, we have a 2-man team that runs our IT department for security, because we're interfacing with so many people's, we're that virtual intersection requires cyber security. And they're also the people that onboard our employees and give them full digital access to email and that sort of thing. And then we have web designers. We have 2 different web groups, one that's maintaining our main website. And then we have another digital group that's helping loan officers within our company get their websites up and running. And they do other things like our digital e-magazines, marketing department with a chief marketing officer, graphic designers, videographers. We have 3 people in social media. One that's posting, one that's helping us create the schedules 90 days in advance. That's, polishing my copyright. I still do the copyright for the social media and editing. And so a whole bunch of support there. We have an operations manager that has executive assistants. We have 3 schedulers. We have national business development managers. We have 8 sales executives, 9 coaches. So we might even be over 26 when we add it all up. That was my last count probably a month ago. But yeah, 9 executive coaches that do all different things: growth, health and wellness, relationship, life coaching, just everything you can imagine, origination, specifics. And then the sales execs are all doing incentive programs. A lot of them coach with us, and they're out there, bringing people into the organization. So, and growing. I suspect by next year we'll be over 50. Our business plan for 5 years will make us, we hope, an international company. We are trying to become a brand name label that will be a household name in the years to come, that is affiliated with coaching on many fronts, not just our industry. And so inch by inch, we continue to work and hopefully set the example for the type of leadership we provide. We do a lot of stuff. So while there's live webinars going on monthly, there's curriculum going on. We do social media content curation. We have reading libraries. Our system doubles as a content provision for educational content for all our users to the real estate side. And so we do one-on-one coaching, and we do financial forensics. So we build P&Ls, and we do accountability in the financial forensic sector for the banking. So we're kind of like a plug-in for individuals and companies that want full-on like leadership, accountability, coaching, and training. And so, a lot of companies will spend $1 million a year facilitating these functions by hiring executive level management and bringing in the resources and technology to support that. And we're kind of a plug and play, like they pay us a fee, but we do all the work, and we train their LOs, and we provide media support. And we make it really easy for companies to get a ton in the way of coaching, accountability, and sales acceleration without having to spend that kind of money. So
for them to have it in-house.
Yeah.
Do you only work with mortgage companies, or?
No, it's mortgage and real estate, but we go outside that. We built our curriculum is really for entrepreneurs wanting to scale a business and start from the ground up. So I have coined my system, the MBA of Sales acceleration. And so, people get business degrees, people get accounting degrees, people get NMLS numbers and their real estate license. And that's all great for learning tactical matter. But for the true blue, like, let's tell you how to build a business from the ground up. Let's tell you how to build a business plan, and then all the foundational things. A lot of these loan officers and realtors, they get in because somebody said, hey, you can make a lot of money over here. And it sounds like a great idea, and you can make your own hours. And so a lot of us started that way. We have somebody to blame for convincing us, right?
Yes, we do.
And that's the story for most folks. And yet they get in, and depending on the company they're with, they probably do get orientated, and they probably do get some training. But for there to be a real school where it's like, okay, day one, ownership of a business. Let's build your business plan, and then let's review that plan. And because, listen, people say to me, isn't it a grind to be a coach? And is it hard? And, showing up every day and being on and da, da, da. And this is, our tagline for our company is emotional awakening through education. And so this is what I learned over 21 years of managing in the 32 years that I was in the field, is that people all want to write a New Year's resolution by and large, by numbers, and people will accept accountability. So those are two things that are really good for people that are in the game. And I'm going to tell you, the person that tells me that they have a plan and they have accountability, for me, that's the starting point. That tells me that you kind of know what you're doing, and you are on the right path. But I know from experience that 60% of the people will not stay on that accountability plan or follow through on that business plan. And I don't have any magic dust that makes people do it. What I have is experience with successful people that don't quit their business plans and stick with the accountability. And I teach the tactics of building the type of business that excites you, where you begin to see the weight loss when you step on the scale, or in this case, the sales acceleration. And when that starts, you start getting excited. And so my job is to figure out what your vision of success is, with knowing that every person's is different. So we're not trying to fit everybody into the 2020 box over here. I think where coaching companies get it wrong is everybody's got the guy, the face of the company, and people would argue, I'm the face of this company, but I'm going to tell you, check back with me in 3 years. And if you don't think of my logo before you think of me, I hope there comes years in the future where they don't even know what I look like, but they just know the 2020 label. I started from a place of my relationship. So of course I'm way out, but we removed my image from like 36 places this year. And we will continue to do that because it's really about building a company where we're going to create changes for companies and individuals. That's what's coming that people can't necessarily see until they get here. It's a whole organization of stuff.
Right. But you were the face of it, right? Because you started it. It was your vision.
Yeah.
So you had a vision, what, a decade ago about starting this company?
Yeah, in 2006. Yeah, okay. In 2006, I had been, I had just completed, a really long run of about 10, 11 years with H&R Block Mortgage. I had made my way through the ranks and all the way up to senior vice president. And then the mortgage implosion began. And H&R Block was a Fortune 500 publicly traded company on Wall Street with a board of directors. And obviously we all knew that if the mortgage division lost money, that share price would go down. So the company was in a position to lose billions of dollars. And really, unlike other mortgage companies, you need to understand, a lot of mortgage companies, even national ones, were not publicly traded companies. They weren't tied to the body of a Fortune 500 company. And so the threat for that organization was far, far higher. So it would be no surprise that as an accounting firm, one of the biggest international accounting firms, that they would make a very safe play to lop their leg off, kind of to save the body before they never even had a month in the red. They literally closed that operation down profitable. And so I was the person, in that boardroom with everybody that made that decision. And I went and sat on a beach for the summer when my job was over. Unfortunately, as timing would have it, we made the announcement on March 26th. And on May 9th, my mom had a brain aneurysm at work and was life flighted to a neuro center. And she would spend like 54 days in a coma. So the interesting part about this story is, I had all the time in the world because I wasn't working to sit there while she went through that recovery process. That whole summer, I rented a house on the lake. I started thinking about what I wanted to do in the future. I had a really young baby. And I began to write my book, Wise Eyes. And over the summer, I came to it in my head that I wanted to be a coach one day, that's really what I love doing, that I thought I was good at. I was reflecting, I was writing. I didn't know I was writing a book. I thought I was just writing. I was kind of at an intersection where I was afraid that I wouldn't remember what had made me successful the prior 12 years and that I might never get another chance to show the world what I had done. So I wanted to pause and kind of capture it. I'm really big on journaling things and diaries. And I have so much writing, that's stashed away. I wrote a journal for my son when I was pregnant because I traveled 35 weeks of his pregnancy. And so I would write him a letter on every trip on the airplane. And it was places we went while you were in my belly. He has no idea that journal exists. But one day when he gets married, it'll be a beautiful book in of itself for him to hold on to and see. So I always loved writing, and it helped me then. And I decided Vision for Success, 2020 Vision for Success Coaching was what I was going to name my firm. And I opened up a website 2006, summer of 2006 with that name. The logo looked different than it does today. We revamped the logo in 2018. But yeah, I knew then. And then I ended up with one more gig in me, which ended up being Annie Mac, and I was with them for 12 years.
And now here you are living the dream.
Yeah.
Living the dream. But everything that you did up until now prepared you for this, right? I mean, you just didn't pop out into this world. You had a lot of training and you were a trainer. And those things, so now you're bringing them out to others. What do you think's going to happen with our industry? Do you have any insight to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see what the total fallout's going to be. We're not even near the end of this thing until businesses can return. I mean, I was sitting here yesterday having kind of an analytical conversation with my boyfriend about it. And I was like, what do you think's happening with the retail shops, like the clothing stores? They're literally, all the malls in America are shut down, So every clothing line, every store that you can think of that sells anything, like think about it, like the list is so, like if you sell purses or watches or clothing, like all of that has ceased. Like all revenue has ceased to those businesses. And so when I let myself think about the gravity of this, I know that we're in a place that's unprecedented. And so of course I want to be the positive voice. I've read the economics. And so where I feel a sense of responsibility, I teach a class called Economic Advisor, and it was written long before the pandemic, where I teach professionals how, in our space, in the mortgage side, how to gather economic news. Because I've been through 06, 07, and 08, I understand that you need to know what you're talking about in market volatility, and it cannot be, listen, I see tons of LOs advising out there, and I am not a snob that looks down my nose at people, at other professionals. I'm not a hater. I hate haters. I don't like that mentality, but I see a lot of people not getting it right because they don't understand what they're saying or doing. So I want to make sure that people that are coaching with us get this part right. So, what I'll tell you is I tune in and I consume a ton of news and Bloomberg and Barry Habib and all of the things going on. I read the entire Fannie Mae April dissertation by head economist Doug Duncan that came out on the real estate industry. And his prediction was that we would see a 15% decline in home values in the fourth quarter, which is not what we thought we would see. And I think that's under predicted. And I think in a month, we'll see already that's probably going to go deeper than that. I do know that we were in a robust economy, that this isn't happening as a result of economic, there's a difference between 08 and now. So, in 07, 08, there was a supply and demand issue and there was a default issue. So all of the loose regulations that were occurring back then with the type of lending, the non-prime lending that we were doing, the NINAs, the no income, no assets, there was abuse in those, in some of those areas. And so people were, the market was inflated, the home prices were inflated, really inflated and bloated. And, people started defaulting. And so, and then there wasn't enough people that qualified because of the default. And so the supply and demand just toppled over. And that took us 7 years to really recover from. And so here we are finding ourselves this year, and we're at 425% increase in volume in the mortgage industry in the first quarter. So if you look back over the last 2 decades, you have a seasonal decline in November, December, January, February, across the nation, across the industry. And that did not happen this year. And so before the pandemic hit, there was actually a pullback occurring in terms of that volume. And I break it down into layman terms like this. If you had a kid, for everyone that coaches with me, they've heard this story before. This is my analogy to it. If you have a kid that comes to you on Mondays and says, I want lunch money, and you say, how much do you need? And they say $20, and for forever, you give them $20 on Monday for lunch for the week. And then one week they show up and say, I need $100 for lunch this week. What are you saying? Are you saying, what do you mean? What happened? Did the price go up? Like, are they charging more? Like, where's this other money going? You have questions, right? I mean, of course, it would make you question, and it would make you wonder. Well, if you can imagine doing 425% volume for investors in the first quarter this year, they're the parent asking you, what the hell are you doing with the rest of this lunch money at this point? It doesn't mean that they didn't understand what was happening. It means there's a risk involved with the increased amount. And so we were starting to see non-QM. So the regulations were pulling back. Non-QM, or what you call today the non-prime lenders, were getting impacted. And you were seeing margin calls. Now, a margin call, in my analogy, would be like this. You would say to Johnny, I'll give you $100 for your lunch money this week, but before I give it to you, so that I know that you're going to pay it back, you got to go to your piggy bank and you got to give me $20 of your own out of your piggy bank. It can't be from the 100 I'm giving you. Go get your $20, come back here. I'm going to hold your 20. I'll give you this 100 so that I know that it's going to work out right. It's the same philosophy of giving your license at a bar when they're holding a tab. So they started doing margin calls on lenders. These checks were like just mind-boggling. $120 million some of these companies were getting hit with, and you have to pay it in order to have investment capital. And so what I'll tell you is, when you look at what was happening, then the pandemic hit. You know, the Federal Reserve was trying to counter some of this. They were lowering the rates down to 0, and that was all pre-pandemic. So we need to remember there was some volatility occurring in the markets before the pandemic. The pandemic causes the default rise with the unemployment and the job reports, and now you've got like the perfect storm. So when you take all these pieces and you try to put it all back together, and we leave the pandemic and go back to work, where do we sit? Well, it's going to be based on a number of things. Number one, how many people get their jobs back? So where does the job market fall back into? How much casualty do we have? So those, nobody's even predicting, because we're in a place where you can't historically predict. And so there's that. And then number two, does this type of market make buyers who were planning to buy scared to buy because of the unknown? And does it make sellers who were planning on selling scared to sell because they think they might not be getting top dollar for their home? If that fear exists coming out of this, and that affects supply and demand, because your buyer is your demand and your seller is supply. Mm-hmm. If that's affected, then you will see long-term impact on this. And then, of course, this is all not considering the government stimulus forbearance implications, where they had a knee-jerk reaction. That, the government was slow to react in 2007 and 2008. And because of it, people died in those boats that were sinking back then. And we had a ton of default that could have been salvaged in the way of foreclosure. They didn't show up to the fire and the house burnt to the ground in 2008. This time, they literally showed up and they blasted your house with water before the fire actually had ignited. And so you have water damage now. And so what happened with the government is forbearance was, you don't need to make your payment, because we know if you hold on to your mortgage payment, you can put that money back into your house to buy food and everything else. But the problem with that is there's no way to regulate it. So it's offered to everybody, and people that don't need it are using it. And by the way, if someone holds your mortgage note as a securitizer, as a servicing agent, if you don't make your mortgage payment, that servicing agent has to make it for you. And so because of that, service holders, they don't have that type of capital lying around. And so that's where you're seeing the lobbying occurring on the markets and that sort of thing. So anyways, super long economic kind of picture of the I don't knows, but I just think educating everybody on the severity of this impact. I think when we do get back to it, refis will still happen. Rates will still be low because the government's going to want to keep the rates down. So anybody that missed the boat, that didn't lock in, don't worry. Third, fourth quarter, I truly believe you'll be getting your rates. I think if you were in the throes of doing this, you should continue with your paperwork and get first in line. Give your mortgage person paperwork and whatnot. And if you were working with a realtor and the house you want, you find at the price you like right now, buy it right now. Don't hold off. If you still qualify, get the paperwork done and get across the finish line. I think everyone has to self-assess. And if you can get the transaction done, do it, because every transaction that gets done is going to help how this all works coming out of this thing. I do think we're an industry that won't see the same impact as other industries. We should be thankful we are not in retail industries and manufacturing and things like that, because, and I feel bad, anyone listening, of course, for anybody that are in those fields. But as it relates to people tuning in from our industry, I still feel like we are in very, very lucky positions.
I agree. I mean, people, our clients, consumers, they need housing.
Yeah.
They're renting, buying, selling.
Yep.
It will continue to exist regardless of COVID. And we've seen our inventory here in Philadelphia, Christine. We went from last May, we had 8,600 homes on the market. As of May 1st, we had 3,600.
Yeah.
So 60% less inventory. I tell buyers, listen, if you you're still buying. It's a great time because there's less bidding wars because there's less
Yeah.
people. We can't show the property. They can buy it through the 3D tour, which we have people doing, which is very exciting, by the way.
Yeah.
That people are buying homes through the 3D
Sure.
video. And, you find solutions. That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
How do we, and this, for your company, like you're probably talking, a lot of people I would imagine are scared
Yeah.
with, right? Luckily they
Absolutely.
have you. I mean, they have
Yeah.
your coaches.
I have to tell you, the leaders are incredible too. I've seen such I'm so humbled by the leadership in our industry, the lobbyists, I just have seen guys running into the burning building the last month, and I'm impressed everywhere I look. I mean, these companies are standing up. They're communicative. A lot of them are seasoned from past volatility markets, and I think we've done a better job as an industry navigating unprecedented waters. And I think this will be one for the record books. I mean, there will be books written about this at some point. And I'm impressed. I'm optimistic. I feel, so much gratitude about where I'm at. And my advice for all professionals is, whenever there is anything in life that, you're going through, the best course of action will always be to take action. And I think standing still and standing with the deer in the headlights, I think people will remember who showed up. I think bringing value right now is really important. And so I would just tell you that you absolutely need to just keep your head down and plowing forward for sure. Yeah.
I think that's the best advice that we can give people, because it's definitely like, look, you have all the time in the world now to dedicate to working outside of homeschooling your children, which I can imagine could be very stressful. But there's a lot of opportunity. And look, I mean, you can build a whole company online.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that a beautiful thing?
It is. It's so great.
Yeah, I know that you have something else coming up.
Yeah. Well, that's good for all your listeners because I'm talkative, so I could have chewed their ear off.
I am thankful and grateful for you today, and it's great to finally actually meet you.
Yeah, you too.
And through thanks to Culture Matters is our connection.
I know, they're great.
Amazing people.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Hey, and Jenna, they're special people for sure, and I'm glad that.
Oh, there's no question. Just incredible. They get it. I'm so glad I'm aligned with them, and they help me get it. So it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, well, keep doing what you're doing. I see you out there, and I have mad admiration for you. And you're clearly doing a lot of incredible things, especially bringing this podcast out because I think we all need advice, and I think all of us need direction, and I think the more you interview people, the more direction that's given, and that makes you valuable. So we have the same hearts and desire to help and service minded attitudes, and so anyways, thank you so much for having me. And I know we'll continue to keep crossing paths here, so thank you so much. I'm grateful. Absolutely. All right, take care, everyone.
Have a great week, Christine. I'll see you.
You too, Maria. Bye. All right.